She's waiting for love to be realized.
Hey, welcome to Wednesday night, everyone. It is so great to be back with you. I missed you last week while we were on senior trip, but so thankful for Aaron and Jade pinch hitting and handling the whole things themselves. They did a tremendous job as always. Tonight we're going to be dealing with the practical, kind of the practical implications of understanding how to defend our faith, and that is to actually talk to a person. And so I'm excited about Jade to come and lead us in that here in just a few minutes. But before we do, we recorded just a little fun thing to kick the night off. It is called Word Sneak. So you guys enjoy this, and we'll be back with you in just a brief moment. Thanks a lot.
Hey everybody, so tonight we officially have both Lauren and Warren here with us. It's our first time, right? With us all together?
I think it is, yeah.
So you're looking at our youth summer crew. We're really excited to have these guys here with us this summer with all the different activities we're going to be doing. So we thought we would do a fun game tonight that kind of goes in line with that idea. It's called Word Sneak. You might have seen it on the Tonight Show. And so each of us has a stack of words, person, place, or thing, that we haven't seen yet. And we're going to try to seamlessly, casually work these into a conversation about summer camp ideas. So we don't know what we're going to have to work in, but we're just going to have to do it on the fly. And we'll see how it goes.
Just random off-the-wall words, right?
Yeah. So, Chris, if you want to start, we'll just kind of go.
All right.
We each have three.
Look at my word. All right. Cool. All right.
We can look at them now?
Your one. You can look at your one. One at a time.
This is going to be difficult.
Okay.
I'm going to go with two words. I don't know
Okay.
who this person is, literally.
Okay.
Charli D'Amelio? Who is that?
She's a really... Wait, aren't you supposed to like give us like a...
Yeah,
an
I'm
intro, Jade?
throwing that one. I need to throw my gum away anyway, so I'm just kind of getting rid of that one.
We had our other stacks.
Who is
you
that?
want to give him
Give
a
me
third
some-
one?
Yeah.
Who is that?
She's a TikTok
Oh, excuse me, I don't have
famous influencer.
Sorry, I apologize.
Diego, that's
for
what
not
you get
knowing.
for bringing up
Charli
TikTok.
D'Amelio?
Did I just get called Diego?
Sorry.
Is it
You were
too late
just
to resign? I quit being an intern. I'm done. I'm out for the summer.
No, we're talking about Diego and ping pong. Diego, you got a shout out for being a good ping pong player. I'm so sorry. Warren.
All right, so, okay, cool. All right, good deal.
Wait, Jay, don't we have like an intro?
Yeah, so Chris, tell us some thoughts about how you see our own summer camp going. Since Passion Camp was canceled, we're going to have to do our own thing.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts about what we could do for summer camp?
Yeah, we've got a lot of really great ideas. I know, like many of you guys, you feel like Charlie Brown and that football has just been removed. Like you tried to run up and just like, man, I can't wait for summer, and all of a sudden the ball gets snatched away and you fall on your back like Charlie. You know what I mean?
That's unfortunate.
And so we're going to try to correct that.
Yeah,
you know what I
I
mean?
think that's a
All
great
right, good
idea.
deal. How about you?
I
What
was
are your thoughts?
thinking, since, with our Gospel Project series, we've been studying the Old Testament, I thought we could really wrap that up maybe with some Yiddish lessons to really get into the original Hebrew text of, I'm so bad at this, to get into the original Hebrew text of the Bible, maybe, Yiddish, I know the word like klutz is Yiddish, like tripping over stuff, so what do you think,
Putz
Lauren?
would have to be as well. That's not my
Putz,
word, but
yeah.
exactly.
Schmooze, yep.
Schmooze.
Sound like a Yiddish professor.
Yeah.
So I was thinking, we could probably do some mission type work, do some service projects.
Pastor Waylon would love that.
Yeah, definitely. And, like the Apostle Paul, we can just start going around preaching to different people, serving, doing all these different kind of things. And I think that would be a really good way to get some kids involved. And
I love
What about
that.
Crime Stoppers ministry?
I
You
wanna-
thought about
I wanna
Crime
kinda-
Stoppers?
Crime Stoppers.
good.
I love true crime. I think that's a great
too.
idea.
More words.
I'm out already. It wasn't even your turn, Chris.
I've been taking turns.
What would a Crime Stoppers ministry even look like? What do you think?
I think that'd just be like vigilantes or something. Like Crime Stoppers Ministry would just be like a bunch of people. Like, have you ever seen that old Bible Man TV show?
Bible Man.
Bible Man.
Bible
So here's
Man.
what I'm imagining. I'm imagining we're all sitting in a room. We're waiting for like a fire alarm to go off or something. When the fire alarm goes off, we all of a sudden suit up and we just run out and go stop crimes. I think that's what our
At the
ministry
sound
is.
of the fire alarm.
Throw them
At
right
the
into the
sound, we
dungeon.
just
Throw them
ready
right
to
into
go.
the dungeon.
I know, exactly,
dragon
exactly.
that breathes fire that goes into the dungeon.
Oh,
Who?
wow.
Or
Dragon.
let's like,
Dragon.
let's
That's
like,
like sort of revelation right there.
let's
I like
expand this a little bit. Like, let's go all over the world. Like, not just drive like Egyptian tombs, like random places,
wow.
like Aztec temples and stuff like that.
Singapore too.
Honestly,
I mean,
I think
Singapore.
that would be a pretty supercalifragilisticexpialidocious summer for me.
It really is. Even okay, big picture here. Like a flash mob, Cupid Shuffle, all sorts of just crazy things. We want to teach these people a lesson, right? We want to teach them a lesson.
Well, Warren brought up the idea of traveling around the world, but I'm of the opinion that the Earth is actually flat,
Yeah.
and that birds aren't even real.
Do you know it was Jackie Chan that introduced that idea years ago? Jackie Chan.
He's a flat earther?
flat earther.
Jackie Chan, a
Exactly.
flat earther? Wow. Jackie Chan, Chinese culture. You know what reminds me of that? In these quarantine
Wait,
times.
you say Jackie Chan was from China? I thought he was from Iceland. And I thought he was from the capital of Iceland, Reykjavik. No, is he not?
He might
I thought he
have
was
traveled.
Icelandic.
Iceland?
Jackie Chan's not Icelandic.
I thought he was like from like what's that island country where Paul was around, like Greece.
Greece.
Yeah.
Greece. He could be Grecian. He's got beautiful hair.
Grecian, is that the word? I thought it was greasy. I thought it was greasy, but I guess it's Grecian. I guess it's Grecian. I really thought it was greasy.
I bet it's hard to find a good ramen noodle place in Greece. You know, I feel like Jackie Chan could point us to a good ramen place, but Greece, I feel like
Exactly.
would not have a good ramen shop.
If we could throw some Dwight Schrute farm beets in there,
To top your ramen with some Dwight Schrute beets.
Yeah,
Sounds
only the finest.
delicious.
Only the finest. What do you guys think of that?
Good job, you guys. Good job. Y'all are really good at that.
Exactly. Tony Sachery's Cajun spice for sure would be great in ramen.
For sure.
We're done again. Lauren, I'm sorry. I've kind of dominated the conversation unintentionally.
Are we done? We got it?
Seconds, yeah.
Well, we hope you guys enjoyed that. That was our game for tonight. And we'll see you with some more serious subject matter at another time.
Hey guys, Jonathan here. It's so great to be back with y'all. Just like other times I've led, I want to encourage you, don't let this be another moment of entertainment. It's so easy if you're on your phone, if you're on your computer. Everything we've kind of seen over quarantine has been people giving us stuff that just kind of feeds us and entertains us. But let this be a moment for us to come together wherever you are and worship Jesus together. Whether you're singing with your family, your brothers and sisters, which I know can be a challenge. I have 2 sisters, and it's just kind of awkward to sing next to them sometimes when you're just at home. Or whether you're just listening and letting the truth of the gospel penetrate your heart. Don't let this moment slip by. Let's worship Jesus together as we sing, as we praise. You are here, moving in our midst. I worship you. I worship you. You are here, you're working in this place. I worship you. I worship you. 'Cause you are waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. 'Cause you are waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. You are here, touching every heart. I worship you. I worship you. You are here, healing every heart. I worship you. I worship you. You are here, turning lives around. I don't see it, you're working. Even when I don't feel it, you're working. You never stop working. You never stop working. 'Cause even when I don't see it, you're working. Even when I don't feel it, you're working. You never stop working. You never stop working. Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. Oh, you are waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. Even when I don't see it, 'cause even when I don't see it, you're working. Even when I don't feel it, you're working. You never stop working. You never stop working. Even when I don't see it, you're working. Even when I don't feel it, you're working. You never stop working. You never stop working. It's amazing. It's not only when we don't see it and when we don't feel it. I think a lot of times for me, especially when I came to Jesus, it was, how could he? In the midst of all of my sin and all my shame, save me. But Jesus just says in Scripture over and over, come to me all who are weary and heavy laden, and I will give you rest. And it's amazing, he doesn't stop. He doesn't stop calling us to himself. So I want to challenge you. Maybe you've been just in a sin struggle this whole quarantine. We're about to sing a chorus bridge and a chorus of Run to the Father. Jesus loves you, and he wants you. And he's calling you to follow him. I run to the Father, I fall into grace. I'm done with the hiding, no reason to wait. My heart needs a surgeon, my soul needs a friend. So I run to the Father again and again and again and again. Oh, oh, and again and again and again and again. My heart has been in your sight long before my first breath, running into your arms is running to life from death. And I feel this rush deep in my chest. Your mercy is calling out. Oh, just as I am, you pull me in. And I know I need you now. I run to the Father, I fall into grace. I'm done with the hiding, the reason to wait. My heart needs a surgeon, my soul needs a friend. So I run to the Father again and again. I run to the Father, I fall into grace. I'm done with the hiding, no reason to wait. My heart found a surgeon, my soul found a friend. So I run to the Father again and again and again and again. 'Cause even when I don't see it, you're working. Even when I don't feel it, you're working. You never stop working. You never stop working. Jesus, thank you for working in us, even when we don't get to see every good thing that you've caused to happen because of quarantine. We know and we believe and we trust that the God who redeems us can use and redeem the situation for his glory. Speak to us tonight, Father. As we learn how to talk to people, God, give us a love for them. Give us a heart for them. That we would tell people about you, Jesus. We give you the praise and the glory, God. Amen.
All right. Hey, everybody. So tonight's going to be a little bit of different subject matter. The last few weeks, if you've been here watching, we've talked about different apologetics topics, like the problem of evil and suffering, the idea, can science and faith really go together, the reliability of the Bible, is Christianity the only true religion? We've kind of done an introductory lesson on those topics the last few weeks. But tonight and next week, I want to change it to how to actually use what you know in conversations where you want to defend your faith. I want to talk about practical tips on how to share your faith, how to defend your faith in conversation with somebody. And so as we talk about this tonight, it's super important to remember the last part of 1 Peter 3:15, which says, always be prepared to give a defense for your faith to anyone who asks you, and do this with gentleness and respect. You guys, this is so crucial. Just as important as what you're sharing, the evidences for God or the Bible or whatever you're talking about, just as important is your character and the manner in which you're sharing the gospel. Because even if you're sharing the truth, if you're coming at someone aggressively or with a really ugly attitude, that person may agree to the truth of what you're saying, but they may not even want to be a Christian if you're representing something ugly and rude and aggressive. So our character, remember, we're ambassadors of Christ, as Paul says. Our character must represent Christ's character. We must be gentle. We must be respectful. Even if we're trying to point out some logical flaws in someone's argument, we must do this with gentleness and respect. And you've probably heard about the passing of Ravi Zacharias. He was the king of sharing truth with gentleness and respect and being gracious and kind. He was just a master at that, and he's someone I want to emulate so much when I'm defending my faith. So with that said, also, we want to win the person, not just the argument. We want to win the person, not just the argument. A person is not someone we want to humiliate or burn. They're a lost person who we want to see saved, who we want to see come to know Jesus. And so if our goal is just to burn a heretic, to make ourselves look good, to make ourselves look smart, we've got to reevaluate our hearts and ask ourselves, are we idolizing apologetics? Are we wanting just to show how much we know? Or are we defending our faith and sharing our faith to see lost persons become saved? So one book that I'm going to reference a lot tonight is a book that has completely changed my approach to evangelism. It is so helpful. I wish I had it here with me, but it's called Tactics. And the author is Greg Koukl, K-O-U-K-L, Greg Koukl, and he leads a ministry called Stand to Reason. They're incredible apologists. They are so smart and wise, but practical and helpful. And Greg is just a master of teaching other people how to navigate conversations where you want to defend your faith, where you want to share what you believe. How do you actually do that in the real world with real people? And his tactics, seriously, I have learned so much from him, and I want to share that with you tonight. And what I love is that Greg Koukl's tactics are, anyone can use them, even if you're shy, even if you're the most timid Christian, even if you feel like you just have a beginner level knowledge of your faith or of apologetics, of how to defend your faith, you can use his tactics. You don't have to feel hopeless. You don't have to feel helpless or hopeless when it comes to sharing your faith. And I'm going to teach you guys some tactics tonight. So the first thing is that this will take a ton of pressure off of you if you remember this. You don't have to close the deal with someone when you share your faith. You don't have to go in one conversation from sharing the gospel with a lost person to getting them to commit their life to Christ. If you take that pressure off yourself that you are not responsible for someone's salvation in a single conversation, it frees you up to, it just takes so much pressure off of you. So don't let yourself feel pressured to close the sale. And the way Greg puts it is that we want to put a rock in someone's shoe. We want to give someone something to think about. Those kind of things that you think about before you're falling asleep at night or while you're driving down the road and kind of letting your mind wander. We want to give someone something to think about Christianity, about God, about the Bible, or to gently challenge their assumptions about those things. We want to give them something to think about. We want to put a rock in their shoe. Because sometimes, let's be honest, you might have an opportunity to share something very briefly. You might not have the opportunity to sit with someone and talk for hours and lead them to Christ in one conversation. Now, sometimes you can, and that's an amazing privilege and an amazing blessing. But sometimes gardening needs to be done before there is a harvest. Sometimes when you talk to someone, that fruit isn't ripe. They're not ready to commit their lives to Christ. Because think about it, considering Christianity, that often takes a long time. God works in us over time to convict us. This might describe your own salvation story. Maybe it took you many times of hearing the gospel before you came to Christ. Or maybe that describes someone you know. We want to give people something to think about and be those gardeners before there is a harvest. And it is a super huge blessing to be a harvester, to be that person who gets to lead someone to Christ. And it's something I hope you all get to experience at some point. But God calls us to be faithful in the gardening and leave the harvest up to him. We can trust that he's working with us when we're sharing our faith. The Holy Spirit is present and that he will bring about that fruit when it is ripe, when it is time. So take that pressure off of yourself. All right, so let's get into the driver's seat. Let's talk about the real stuff. What do we say? What do we ask? I know you've heard a million times little snippets that people throw out as an argument against Christianity or as a challenge against Christianity. You might have seen a meme or a one-liner, an Instagram caption, something, or just something that someone throws out in a conversation. It might be something like, oh, well, science has disproved God long ago. Or everyone knows that the Bible's a myth. Jesus wasn't even a real person. Or if God is real, then we wouldn't have so much pain and suffering in the world. These are those little sound bites that people like to repeat, that people like to throw out. And it's a bold but short statement. It's an assertion. So, and you probably, when you hear these things, you feel convicted. You want to say something. But it might seem like, oh my gosh, but I don't have time to spend an hour defending the reliability of the Bible. You might, which would be great. But maybe you just have a short amount of time and you want to say something, but you're not sure where to start. I'm going to help you tonight. Greg Koukl, his book Tactics, amazing, and this is where I'm getting all of this from. So the core of our tactical approach when it comes to evangelism is asking questions. Okay, that is what tonight is going to be about, how to ask the right, thoughtful questions when it comes to defending your faith and sharing your faith. And what's funny is I'm really showing my cards here because I bet I have asked you guys these questions. When you're sharing something with me, I bet you will recognize, wait, Jade has asked me this, because it is so helpful. These tactics are helpful really with any conversation when there's an argument or a reasoning involved, not just sharing our faith. So, questions. We're using questions. They are powerful, and we're going to use them to draw someone out, invite them to talk more about what they think. Again, it takes the pressure off us. It puts the ball in their court. And we want to invite them to participate in the conversation. So, question number one. You ready? It's so simple. The question is, what do you mean by that? What do you mean by that? So when someone throws out a challenge to Christianity, the first thing you need to do is gather facts. And you do this by asking the person, what do you mean by that? It's a natural, curious question. It's not offensive. It's not aggressive. You're inviting them to have a conversation with you. And you're giving them a chance to explain themselves. You're gathering information. So, for example, if someone says, truth is relative, everything's relative. Well, what do you mean by that? Is everything relative? What do you mean by relative? So what do you mean by that? And wouldn't even that apply to your own statement? If you're saying everything's relative, doesn't that mean your statement's relative? So sometimes you just need to gather more information about what they meant. What do you mean by that? And so many times, I've seen this with my own eyes so many times, the person hasn't even thought about what they've said to a large extent. They haven't really seen or examined the faulty reasoning behind what they've just said. They're used to going unchallenged by that. They're used to repeating slogans that they've heard. And maybe just by you asking, what do you mean by that? Maybe it's the first time they've ever had to think about exactly what they mean. Okay? So asking the right questions, guys, it is so crucial in evangelism. It takes the pressure off of you. And again, that first one is so easy to remember. What do you mean by that? And this, guys, this is just a basic conversational strategy in any argument that someone's giving. I've had not really arguments, but just conversation about politics. And someone just kind of throws out this political thing, and I just say, like, what do you mean by that? And they're like, oh. They're kind of blank stares. There might be a little bit of stuttering because they're used to just that going unquestioned. So what do you mean by that? So say there, maybe another example would be someone says, there's no proof of God's existence. Well, when I hear that, I've studied evidence for God's existence. So my first reaction is to say, okay, well, I can give them the cosmological argument. I can give them the argument from design. I can give them the argument from morality or the argument from desire. Oh, which one do I start with? How much time do I have? And then I remember they have asked this question, or they have asserted this statement. There's no proof for God's existence. So why let that person get off so easily and make myself have to do the hard work of proving this to them when I can start by just asking, how did you mean by that? Or sorry, what did you mean by that? And it keeps them from just being able to coast on a really vague general statement. Now, we should be expected to have to give an answer when someone asks us, what do you mean by that? When we're saying that science and faith can go together, that the Bible is reliable. If we're making that claim and someone asks us, what do you mean by that? We should be able to answer because we're the one who put forth that claim. But the claim that someone else puts out, they should be able to have to defend that themselves. So that's our first tactic. Our first tactical question is asking someone, what do you mean by that, when they throw out an objection or an argument or a challenge against Christianity. We want them to spell it out clearly for us. What do you mean by your objection? Okay? Well, that's the first one. There's a second step in our game plan. I think some people think that it's only Christians who should be required to defend their stance or to defend their beliefs. But other people should have to other people should have to defend what they believe as well. But it's kind of typical that people forget, oh, well, if I say something I believe, I should have to be able to defend that as well. It's called reversing the burden of proof. So the burden of proof is the responsibility that someone has to defend their own point of view. So if I'm saying I'm a Christian, if I'm saying God is real, the Bible is true, the Bible is reliable, if I'm making those claims, then the burden of proof is on me to be able to describe and defend why I believe that. But if someone else makes claims the Bible is not true, God is not real, abortion is a woman's right. If someone else makes those claims, then the burden of proof is on them to defend what they said. It's not your duty to prove them wrong if they're the ones who claim that. It's their duty to prove, to explain why they believed that. And I think this is a really helpful example. An argument is like a house that has a roof and walls, right? The roof is the conclusion and the walls are supporting ideas. So by testing the walls, by testing someone's supporting ideas, you can see if they're strong enough for that roof to hold, for that conclusion to hold. But as soon as I describe this to you and you start listening to what other people say, you will notice that some arguments aren't arguments at all. They're just conclusions. They're roofs that people try to crush you with. But once you say, hey, this is just a roof, this is just a conclusion, show me the premises, show me the evidence you have to support your conclusion. There's no walls here. This isn't a house, it's just a roof. So instead of constructing walls that hold conclusions up, a lot of people just make assertions. They just try to throw this heavy roof on you and say, deal with it. But instead you can say, hey, what are the reasons that led you here? And so that comes to our second question, and it's this: how did you come to that conclusion? Question one is what did you mean by that? And second question is, how did you come to that conclusion? So if you're going to bring me a house and you're going to say that it's got a roof and walls, then those walls need to support that roof. Your premises need to hold up your conclusion. So the question, how did you come to that conclusion, enforces that burden of proof rule. And other ways to say that are, why do you say that? Or what are your reasons for holding this opinion that you have? What are your reasons for holding this view that you have? So the first question, what do you mean by that, is getting them to explain what they think. And that second question, how did you come to that conclusion, helps you to know why they think that, why they think this conclusion. And I'm telling you, once you just use these questions, again, in a non-offensive, curious manner, so many people are not prepared to defend what they believe. They're so used to getting away with these popular slogans and these really bold statements against Christianity, which aren't really arguments. They're just assertions. They're just statements. They haven't given you any reason behind it to support their conclusion. So ask yourself, when someone throws out something against Christianity, ask yourself, did they give me an argument or did they just give me an opinion? And again, they should have to be able to defend their position by giving you evidence and giving you reasons for why they believe what they believe. And again, this falls back on us. If I'm going to claim that that abortion is wrong, if I'm going to claim that marriage should be between one man and one woman, I should be held accountable for explaining why I believe what I believe. The burden of proof is on me when I'm making a truth claim. But if someone else is making that truth claim, it's their duty to defend what they believe. So that's where those questions come in. What do you mean by that, and how did you come to that conclusion? And again, if someone kind of feels challenged, if they feel like, oh my gosh, they've called my bluff, they're kind of putting me on the spot here, a lot of times someone's going to come back at you and be like, well, you explain what you think. Well, you tell me what you think is true. And you can engage with them. You can totally, if you're feel prepared to engage with them about what you think is true, go for it. But if you're not ready, if you're not at a place where you feel ready to engage on a certain topic, you can just say, hey, let me think about it. Can we talk more about it another time? Because again, the pressure is not on you to prove them wrong. The pressure is on them to defend the claim that they're making. So these two questions, what do you mean by that, and how did you come to that conclusion, are so powerful. And even if you're shy, even if you're nervous to share your faith, and even if you have just a few seconds to respond to somebody, you can use these techniques. They're so powerful. And again, I use these all the time. You probably remember me using these against you. I think one of you at some point were like, my parents, don't care about me, or something like that. And I said, well, what do you mean by that? And they answered. Then I said, well, how did you come to that conclusion? And they kind of were able to see, oh, this was more of an emotion I had rather than a carefully thought out argument. And so I hope I'm not giving you ammo against your parents at this point. Don't use these against your parents every time they try to tell you to do something. This is for another time. So again, wrapping up here, these questions show people how poorly designed their arguments often are. That oftentimes they're just giving you an assertion, an opinion, and not an argument. They're trying to throw a roof at you and claim that it's a house when they haven't demonstrated that there's any walls to hold that up. And again, we want to put a rock in someone's shoe. Have you ever had a rock in your shoe? You can't ignore it until you take your shoe off and shake it loose, right? You want to give someone to think about Christianity, about our faith. And these questions help you maintain control of the conversation. It keeps you in the driver's seat, and it keeps you just at this curious, open level of conversation. Again, I have a really cool story. I'll just share it really, really quickly about how I wanted to put a rock in someone's shoe, and I had a very short amount of time. This last summer, Jonathan and I were working at Fuge Camps in Tennessee, and we were driving to go on a hike, and we saw a girl get hit by a car in front of us. We saw a girl get run over on her bike in front of us. And so I had my med bag with me that you have to keep on you for camp. And so I jumped out of the car and I grabbed my med bag and I took off running to her, and praise the Lord, literally by a miracle, she was okay. And so we got her out of the road. The cops came, did their whole thing. Praise the Lord, she was fine. But it turns out she had only moved to America like 2 weeks prior to that. She was from an Eastern European country, and if you know about like post-communist Eastern Europe, it is extremely dark, extremely atheistic. And so I just kind of assumed there's a very good chance she's not a Christian. So since her bike was torn up, but praise the Lord she wasn't, her bike was torn up, so she needed a ride to work. And we said, hey, can we give you a ride? She said yes. And so I knew we had about 2 minutes in the car. I knew that she was probably lost. And I thought to myself, when am I've never been to Eastern Europe. And, you know, I'm here working at Fuge Camps preaching, and not preaching, but teaching people, hey, we need to reach the nations. We need to go where people don't know the gospel and share the gospel with them. And I have the nations in my car with me right now, and I've got 2 minutes. And I thought, how much would I regret this if I lost this opportunity, if I just blew it off? So basically what I said to her, I said, hey, I don't think it was an accident that we met you today. I don't think it was an accident that you were kept safe, even though you should have been really hurt in this car wreck. And I just want you to know that God loves you and that he wants to know you. And if you don't know him, if you're curious about him, cry out to him and he will reveal himself to you. Just ask him, God, if you're real, show me yourself because I want to know you. And I was like shaking as I said this, y'all. You know, I was like, you know, don't think that just because I'm an apologist that I don't get nervous of sharing my faith. I definitely do. And so she took it so well. She started crying. She was like, that is so sweet. Her English was really good. She was like, thank you. That is so nice. And I said, seriously, like, I don't think it was an accident that I met you today. Please cry out to God if you want to know him. And she just said, thank you. And she got out of the car, and I still pray for her like a year later today. So I hope that I was able to put a rock in her shoe. I hope that I just gave her something in the few seconds we had to think about, hey, let me consider if God is real, if Christianity is true. So that wraps up part one of our tactical study, how to defend your faith in a conversation. Again, what do you mean by that? How did you come to that conclusion? Those are two very powerful questions that will serve you well in evangelism. And next week, I'm going to give you some more tools for your evangelism tool belt. So I'll see you guys next week.
All right. Thanks as always, Jade. Fantastic job. And I love the practical nature of that. And sometimes it's just as simple as caring enough to ask a follow-up question. So that's huge. Hey, tonight, as you guys are signing off, as we're signing off, don't forget, we mentioned it Sunday morning, but there's going to be a brief little thing for Aaron out under the Rock Pavilion from 7:30 to 8:30. Just drop by, say hello if you're able, tell them goodbye, and tell them how much you appreciate them. We love you guys. We'll see you Sunday morning, and we're getting close to the end of this, and we'll be meeting together hopefully